Hello and welcome to Nottingham District Gun Club. This is not where I expected to be on a bank holiday Sunday, but unfortunately we are all still in isolation, obviously for very good reasons. Now, I'm sure when you were all last shooting 3 weeks ago, the weather was still a little bit inclemental and we were still getting the odd shower and a bit of cold wind. So we got home, we gave our guns a quick clean and we popped them away. Unfortunately, the guns obviously are going to have to be stored for a little bit longer. So after several requests, what I want to do today is go through a thorough clean of your gun, covering all the different elements. We're literally going to start by taking the gun to pieces. So you're just going to pull the lever on the bottom, remove the forend. Push your top lever across, separate your barrels from your stock. Now I've seen several cleaning videos going around. The one thing I'm starting to realise is that a lot of people don't remove the chokes. So we're going to start with the barrels, and all we're going to do, or all I'm going to do, is just put some gun care spray onto a wool mop, and I'm going to run the wool mop through the barrels all the way, and I just twist as I go. So as I'm just pushing them nice and slowly through, just twisting through right until it just pops out the other end. So you'll see as it appears, and then I'm going to do the same motion coming back. So that's the top barrel, and then I'm going to do exactly the same again, just through the bottom barrel. And I'm just twisting as we go through it, just twisting the cleaning rod, so as it comes out the other end, and then I'm going to twist it back, just making sure we're moving any dirt and grease that's in there, and any gunpowder residue that's left from the last time it was shot. So as we come back through, the next thing I want you to do is remove your chokes. So we're physically going to just drop the key in and take the chokes fully out of the gun. Now, what people tend to do if they shoot particular disciplines, they tend to use the same chokes all the time, so they very rarely remove the chokes from the gun. But the plastic residue and everything gets up to the back of the chokes, and when you then want to get them out, you can't. So we'll keep, every time you clean your gun, just drop your chokes out. And then what I'm going to do once the chokes are removed, I'm going to run the cleaning rod through again. So I'm trying to clean all the threaded area and the part of the barrel where the actual chokes sit into it. So I'm not going to worry too much about the bottom of the barrels, but as I get to the top, again, I'm just going to twist that cleaning pad, so as it comes through out the top, it's cleaning the threads where the chokes actually screw into. Same through the top, not too worried about the bottom of the barrels, but as we get up to that top section, we're just going to twist the cleaning rod, so as it comes out the top, we're cleaning all those elements where the chokes actually screw in. So that should be your barrels, all nice and clean, and if you just have a look through, you'll see if there's any residue left, and if you need to do them again. These are cleaned after every session, so I know pretty much that they're going to be clean anyway. So I've had a look through, everything's nice and clean. So I'm going to get each particular choke, each individual choke, and I'm just using kitchen roll because I find it's as good as anything. And I'm just going to give each choke a good clean. So I'm making sure I get the nice clean around the threads and around the end of the choke. Now that's what your choke should look like. So it's nice and bright, nice and shiny. If you get any build up of residue, so if you get them out and they've got black on them, you just want a little wire brush. Don't be silly, don't get scraping away at it, just a nice gentle motion till you get all that black off. If you get black build up residue on it, which you will because the plastic from the cartridges and the gunpowder residue goes up the back of the cartridge, but once it starts to build up, every time you put it back in, it can make that void bigger, and then they just get worse and worse. The worse they get, the harder they are to get out. So you want a nice clean choke, just give it a good clean. Same with the other one. You'll see how black they are, but because they're greased on a regular basis, that will all come off very, very quickly. Just a nice white round. Make sure you get those threads nice and clean, and as you look at it, nice clean choke once again. Now, I'm using a gun grease, and I just literally get a little basting brush. So when we go shopping and I've worn one out, they are literally just a basting brush that you'd use for pastry. So I'm just going to dip that into the grease, and I'm not going to go mental. but I'm just going to put a nice smear of grease around the threads and then just round the end of the choke. So I'm just putting a little bit of grease onto it, same with the other one, just making sure I get some in around that thread. So as I put the chokes back in, they're not only greasing the thread on the choke, they're also greasing the thread inside the barrel. So just a little bit of grease onto them and pop them back in. Now if your chokes are kept in a good state, you should pretty much be able to screw them back in just with your fingers, just till they get to that point where, like mine, your fingers are too fat to screw them in any further. So then I'm just going to drop the choke key in, whiz him round. Now when you're putting your chokes back in, you don't need to swing on them. There's no major pressure to put them in, just a nice twist through. So just make sure they're snug, but they don't need to be put in so that they can never be taken out again. So just nice and gentle, swing your chokes back in. Drop your key in just to finish them off. Now you can see these are ever so easy to go in, because we do, to be fair, keep on top of gun cleaning and maintenance on them all the time. So you just screw your chokes back in and just a little twist at the end. So we're going to come down now to the maintenance, just where your barrels actually connect up to your main stock, into your action. And again, we're just going to give it all a clean. So all we're trying to do is get rid of any gunpowder residue, any dirt, grit, any damp that's got into there. So these are all your main working parts where your ejectors are. So we're just going to clean all that off. So any old residue of grease that you've put on from last time, anything like that, we're just getting all the old off. Because grease will make a cutting compound, so if you do get any grit or dirt or anything into there, once it mixes with that grease, then every time you open and close the gun, it's just that grating metal against metal. So we're just going to clean all the old off. So every time we're putting fresh clean grease on, and then everything will just stay nice and clean, and you won't end up with that cutting pound procedure going through it. So again, all we're going to do is we're just going to drop a little bit of grease into all these moving parts. So as we put the gun back together and you're opening and closing the gun and the injectors are working, everything is automatically greasing itself every single time. So just using my basting brush, just making sure I get it into everywhere. So we're putting it into the curls where it actually sits in. So again, you're just trying to stop that metal on metal action. So that's all nice and clean, all nice and greased up. Now all I'm going to do with the outside of the barrels, because again, if you've got them damp, any moisture will sit on them, and as we all know, generally gun safes are a solid steel metal box. Lots of us keep them in places where it's not the warmest part of the house, and at this time of year especially, it's very warm during the day, very cold at night. So you're getting that change in temperature, that change in the moisture that's actually in the room that the guns are kept in. So if there's any moisture already on the barrels, that's only going to be gotten worse, and the moisture is going to get more, and that's when potentially you can get the rust. So all I'm going to do with the barrels, I'm going to give them a nice wipe down. So I'm going to make sure that there's no oil and grease on them, but I'm also just making sure that there's no moisture on them at all. Run them through, make sure everything's nice and clean. And then all I'm going to do then is literally, I put it onto a cloth rather than directly onto the barrel themselves. I'm just going to put a squirt of gun oil onto the cloth, and I'm just going to run that across the barrels just to make sure I disperse any moisture that are on there. Also getting all the grease and fingerprints off. If there's anything like fingerprints, it can really damage your barrels if it's left on there. So we're just going to give that a nice clean wipe through, so it's all nice and dry, all nice and clean, all greased up. Chokes have been taken out, chokes have been cleaned, chokes have been greased and put back in. So we're going to pop the barrels to one side, and we're going to come on to the main action. Now you'll see inside the action, all at the bottom here is where your gunpowder residue creates. So if I wipe that out, and this is there, straight away. So that's a clean, straight through, you can see where I've not done anything, and that's literally what the gun cartridges have left. So we're going to give that a good wipe through. Again, just trying to get all the old grease off. So we're putting fresh grease on every time, and we're not creating that cutting compound of anything that we've popped in previously. So if there's you've been out shooting and it's a bit windy and you've got a bit of sand or dirt or anything that's gone into there, you're just eliminating that by wiping all the surfaces down, making sure everything's clean before you start applying any grease. So I'm wiping right through back up to the firing pins, making sure all of that is clean, all is wiped out. And again, all we're going to do is follow that back up just by reapplying some clean grease. So I'm not going to absolutely soak it in grease, I'm just literally putting it all into the moving components. So again, we're not getting that metal on metal. So just working it round where the barrels sit into the action. All the parts that you've got metal running against metal, if we just put a little bit of grease on there, it just prevents that action of movement as you're opening and closing the gun. Right, so now we can pop the barrels back onto the action. Nice and smooth, just drop it in, snap it up. Now I'm going to do exactly the same with the fore end. So around the fore end you've got all the working action again, and then down through the centre. So all I'm doing every time, do you know what, I reckon we could spare another piece of kitchen roll, to be honest. We're fortunate enough to not have to be using it as toilet roll yet, so we can spare another piece. So we're just wiping all the old grease off, making sure it's all clean through, so we're not applying new grease to old grease, and we're not compounding any of the particles we've got in there from the last session you took your gun out. We're just going to clean it through, make sure all of that is out and clean. You can see straight away whether there's any there or not. See, there's a little bit just in that working action there, so I'm just going to get into that. Just bring it all out, every last little bit I want. So I'm literally just looking at nice shiny metal. So that's all now nice and clean, already greased. And again, just going to apply just a nice liberal coating of the grease. So I'm just running a little bit through underneath, and all your working parts just on the inside and the outside. So as we put the gun back together, you've got a nice just coating of grease sliding against a coating of grease. Now I always tend to just drop a little bit, just where that lever is at the bottom, and I just work it in. So as you opening and closing, again, it's not metal on metal, it's grease on grease. So we pop the fore end back on, all nice and clean. Now I'm going to do a similar process with the stock. Because it's wood, wood will absorb moisture, so if it's been left in the safe, if you've oiled your barrels and you've stood it the wrong way up and it's allowing oil to run down and that sort of kind of thing, we don't want the barrels and the fore end to get we don't want the stock and the fore end wood to get damaged. So I'm just going to give them a coat of oil, just make sure we dispel any moisture, and just make sure again we keep them clean and look after the gun as we can. Because then when we pop it away, if we can't get it out for another month, hoping it's not that long, but none of us know at the moment, but it just means that the gun is nice and clean, nicely greased up, and when we're ready to go, pardon the pun, but all guns firing, because everything will be working and ready to go again. So all I'm going to do, once again, I'm just going to put a spray of the oil onto a cloth, and I'm just going to wipe that over my stock. Obviously make sure the oil you've got is suitable to go onto your wood. Most are, but I'd hate for you to do it and it damage anything. So this is suitable and treatable for wood and for metal work. So I'm just going to give all the wood a nice good clean and wipe over. So I'm just removing any grease and residue from it from when I previously used it. Just making sure it's got a nice clean coat of oil on it, just dispelling any moisture. And that gun now is all good, ready to go into the cabinet, until hopefully very soon we can all meet up once again and start shooting once again. Hope that's been helpful. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask. Have a wonderful Sunday. Do the best you can, keep yourself safe, look after your family. We'll see you soon. Thank you.